Emma Bishop, I am really honored to talk to you today about your journey. Emma, tell us a little bit about yourself and the journey that you're on.
Hi, well, firstly, thank you for having me. It's lovely to be included, and I'm really grateful. Who am I and what am I doing? I'm 38 now. I'm a mother of two young children, Beatrice and Edo, aged 5 and 6, and two little dogs called Luna and Louie, and also sort of mother to my husband, Hugo, who's 38. And we a pretty normal family, and things were pretty good. I've had a very, very busy job up until last year, sort of as a PA to a sort of high net worth, and was very busy. And unfortunately, sort of over from about November 21, I sort of started noticing that I was feeling very, very unwell. I was very tired and I was coughing an awful lot, and we couldn't really understand why. I'm not often very ill. I'm sort of one of those mums that just keeps going, and you just don't really think about it because you're so busy. And it sort of, I called the GP, and they sort of said it was probably viral because there was no other symptoms along with anything, and that it would get better. And I had a pretty rough Christmas because I was feeling so tired and so ill. And by that point, I had a sort of pain throughout my body, in my ribs, and in my back. I hadn't really noticed that, but in my ribs, definitely. And so I went to A&E, and everything was fine. X-rays were fine, bloods were good, oxygen was good. And so I was sent away. And then 6 weeks later, the GP called to say that the X-ray had been reviewed, and there was a slight grey area on the lung, and a swollen lymph node. So all in line with an infection or a mild case of pneumonia. And so I was put on antibiotics to treat it, and I thought that would be that. Sort of a week later, when it wasn't really getting better, I was put on a second antibiotic, and that didn't work. So at that point, I was sent back for another X-ray. And by this stage, we were in March, and the lower left lobe of my lung had collapsed entirely. And there was still the grey area on the lung. So I was referred to a chest physician, and I went in to see him. He was a lovely guy, probably the best dressed doctor in town, honestly. And I really, really liked him, felt very comfortable with him. He tapped my back, said, yeah, your lung is collapsed. I had a CT scan. It still looked like infection. So I was admitted into hospital for 5 days on an intravenous drip to try and just finally, obviously, for some reason they thought the antibiotics weren't working. So let's get you in hospital and really nail it. And the whole time I was there, I think by this stage I was having night sweats every night, and I was in pain, and I was so tired. I was in a complete mess. And I still was going to work every day, still doing everything for the kids, and I just, I was falling apart really at the seams, and then I'd noticed I'd lost weight as well. But all through that stay, they were taking bloods constantly to check for infection markers, and there weren't any at all. And I think that's when they started they couldn't quite understand what they were trying to treat, because it wasn't showing anything in particular. So I left after the 5 days, and the following day I went straight in for bronchoscopy, because in the end he said, we've got to go in, we've got to see what's going on. And I didn't know at the time, because obviously they weren't going to say anything when I came out, but I think they'd seen the tumor in my lung at that stage, and they'd done a biopsy to test it to see what it was. And I went away and spent the weekend, away and with my kids. Following Wednesday, I went in, and I thought it was going to be fine. I wasn't really worried about it. I thought whatever it was, we'll cure it, or it'll, it's treatable with a pill or something, So I went by myself. I didn't take my husband with me. And I knew there was something wrong, because this wonderful doctor came and got me from the waiting room. And I thought, that's a bit funny. And and then we went into a different room, a sort of a bigger room, and there was someone else sitting there. And I thought, gosh, what's going on? What's up, doc? I think I said to him, and he said, well, I need you to, try not to worry because there are treatments, but you have lung cancer. And, I was there on my own. My husband wasn't there and I couldn't get hold of him. He was not traveling home from work. And it was a complete shock. I've never smoked. There's no cancer in my family anywhere. And I really couldn't believe it. So there I was. So last year, April last year, diagnosed with lung cancer. And then I was signed off work immediately. They've been fantastic. My job, thank goodness, they've been so supportive. And I was signed off immediately. And then there was the sort of a period, so I had to have a PET scan, had to have a brain MRI. The PET scan showed, sadly, that the cancer had spread already to both lungs, the lymph nodes, spine, pelvis, and liver. And luckily, the brain MRI was clear. So my husband's like, really though? Is it though? Because she's still a bit crazy. I was like, and so the doctors always say, no, there's nothing for us to worry about in there, just you, don't worry. So yeah, we always try and laugh about my empty head. So then it was just waiting really while the biopsies had molecular testing to find out what type I had and whether it was treatable. But it was an extremely scary time. Initially you'll Google your disease and the sort of outcomes, the statistics, and it's frightening. It's absolutely frightening. And I really was doing that and worrying until I was referred to the Royal Marsden under Professor Sanjay Popat. I'd been recommended to go to him by a few people. Actually, the general consensus was he's a superstar. So I was lucky enough to get an appointment with him, and actually I had a little help with that. I had someone else who knew him very well that sort of said, this girl, you must see this girl as soon as you can. And he managed to fit me in, which was incredible. And as soon as I met him, I adored him. He's calm. He's just got the kindest face, and I have every bit of trust in him. And I said, am I going to be okay? And he said, for now, yes. He said, you will. This is what you have. You have EGFR, non-mutant small cell lung cancer. He's like, oh, I know it's funny for me to say it, but you've got a good cancer. And I was like, I've got a good one? How? And he said, this one does respond to this particular drug. And there are many more. There are going to be more. He said, there are more coming. So he said, will you need chemo one day? Probably. But for now, this will work. And we've never talked time periods. We've never talked about how long I have, because we don't know. We don't know. It depends on how long this one holds. It's not going to last forever, and we know that. Sadly, some people it's sort of 12 months, and there are other people that have been on exactly this drug for 10 years and had no progression, which is extraordinary. But we don't know which way it's going to go. But it has worked very well so far. It has shrunk the cancer a very small area in the original tumor, and that's all that's left. And the activity is much less. It's about a quarter of the activity, so from 11.4 to 2.7, which is absolutely incredible. And there's no evidence of the disease in the rest of the body. It's there. It's just sleeping. So we're trying our best to keep it asleep for as long as possible. And I'm very lucky. I take a tablet every day. It's pretty strong. I take the same dose as a man. So the side effects are quite strong for me because I'm quite small. But it's manageable. The hope is one day there'll be another drug, and then another day there'll be a new drug, and maybe one day there'll be something that will get it for sure and actually stop it. So I've got to be positive about that. Cancer is a very difficult journey, and it's been a shock for us all as a family, but we've kind of come to terms with it now, and we're living with it. And my family are incredibly positive. So that is where I am at the moment. Just kind of living with it and trying to do my best with what I've been given, and to raise awareness and to raise money, which is so important, to help find new treatments, help get these drugs on the NHS for other people, and also find earlier diagnosis, and also to say thank you, because I am going to be living in the Marsden now for the rest of my life, and however long that may be, it's going to be my second home. I'll be going there every month or every couple of months, and for periods I'm sure I'll be back going every couple of weeks the way I was before, and I have to look after it, and I have to say thank you, because they look after me. So, and it's going to hopefully be, touch wood, a really long time. It'll be a very long lease on a second home, hopefully, is the plan.
Emma, thank you so much for describing your journey so courageously. I mean, you really are a beaming light of hope and life, and I'm so impressed by that. Emma, you are running the London Marathon to raise money for the Royal Marsden, right? So what is your main motivator? How do you overcome the fear? How do you transform it into something that is such a big action?
I think I wanted to do something when I was ill, and I was told that I would probably be okay, and I didn't believe it. I said, if I'm okay, I'm going to do it. That's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it to raise money and say thank you. And I think partly to challenge myself. I mean, a part of me is, well, I'm loving the fundraising. I enjoy that so much. The training I enjoy less. It is very hard. I used to run fairly well, and the running a marathon wouldn't have been so daunting for me back then, because I didn't find it too difficult. I mean, a marathon is still a huge undertaking for anybody, and would have been for me 2 years ago. But now the problem I have with the drug that I'm on is that it really depletes my hemoglobin levels in my body. So I start off running and I feel fantastic, but I just run out of oxygen really quickly, and I don't get it to the muscles as quickly as I did before. But the red blood cells just aren't quite doing what they were doing. So I'm sort of training in a way to manage that. So there's running, there's a bit of walking, there's a bit of running, because I recover quite quickly, but it's a very different way. So I'm having to get used to that. But I'm feeling so strong from doing it and from doing the training. And I know that the exercise, as long as we're careful and I'm not pushing my immune system too far, it's good for me, and it's getting me strong, and it's building muscle, and it's getting the oxygen going, and that is all so good for the immune system, which will help the drug to keep working, and also just keep me well, which I think is the really, really important thing. We need to have a really very kind of calm body that's strong, to allow the drug to work as much as possible, so it's not distracted by other things. And I feel a sense of achievement when I get back, and I'm still pretty nervous about it, and I want to get round, but I've been really, really supported by everybody, and no one is timing me. They're just sort of said, you've just got to finish, and you just do it in whatever time it is, and enjoy the day. You're not trying to beat yourself, you're not trying to beat anybody. You have cancer, you're going round, and that's all people are supporting you for, is to walk or run the 26 miles. You just do it and enjoy it. So I'm going there with a smile, and with the hope that I will take in the scenery, and I'll meet some wonderful people, and I'll see my friends cheering me on, and I'm not going to be so focused that I'm going to miss everything. I think that's the thing, is to slow down and just take my time and just try and enjoy it as much as I can, as even though I'm going to be exhausted. But yeah, it's been incredible, the response that I've had, and I get messages from so many people that I don't know that just sort of reach out with their support. And every time I feel, gosh, why am I doing this? This is so hard. I read those and I'm like, okay, that's why I'm doing it, because it's making a difference, and it's inspiring other people, and the money I raise will do some good, and hopefully it will make a difference. And whatever happens in the future, my family will always have the kind of memory of me doing it, and that I'm really proud of. So yeah.
Oh, Emma, I mean, just the thought for me to walk the 26 miles is a lot. Let
I'll be
alone run,
walking.
let alone with someone that has cancer. I mean, the whole story is very powerful. So I'd like to really encourage all our listeners to donate to Emma's fundraising drive. It's really inspirational. Emma, I'm wondering, what do you think is your superpower? What's your superpower in staying so positive and doing something that's such a big action to try and give back? It seems to be such an overwhelming sense you have that you want to thank the place that's a little bit your second home. How do you overcome all the worry?
It stops me from worrying, I think, to be honest. It's I have something to look forward to, and I have a project, and I have focus, and that takes me away from sitting around worrying, because I'm busy and I'm doing something and I'm planning something. And so that goal, it sort of creates hope and faith, and that thrives when you have something to succeed with. So to be honest, it's actually really giving me so much help in dealing with everything, is this project and doing this. I mean, I'm actually more worried about what's going to happen when it's over, because I'm going to be like, well, what am I going to do now? So I have to find something new to do. But it's giving me so much. Honestly, I felt sort of quite alone last year when I was ill, and it was mainly known by close friends and family, and that was a difficult time. But since I've opened up about the story and about what I'm doing, the community that has now formed kind of around me, it gives me honestly the most incredible strength and courage. And they're all there. If I fell apart, they'll all be there. But for the most part, it just keeps me going. It stops me thinking about little niggles and worrying about my body, because I'm thinking about a bigger picture. And that's making me think about myself being here in the future and continuing to make plans, where before I was like, well, we can't, because I don't know if I'm going to be here. And now I just feel, okay, I have every intention. I have every intention of being here. So I've got to help in every single way. So that's mentally, and this project's giving me so much strength mentally, which is I think a huge help with the fight, and then looking after myself where I never did before. I sleep better than I did before. I eat so much better, and I look after myself, so I'm much happier, and I'm a much better mother, because I'm not stressed, and I'm not unhappy, and I don't have too much on my plate, and I just I use my time in a much more effective way than I did before. And that's such a huge thing. And I think the realization that time is probably the most precious resource, and you really just need to use it well, as much as you can. So I have less days feeling helpless and less days feeling in despair, and more days trying to focus on this amazing project, and which I hope will maybe lead on to something else, and I can continue to do something good, and make a difference, because we're on the right path. We just need to speed it up a little bit for everybody, and in all cancers, not just mine, in all of them. There are so many people going through a much harder time than me, and my hard time isn't here yet, and there will be at some point, but I watch others sort of going through much more difficult situations, and they inspire me, to be honest, to be brave and to smile and keep going. And I have 2 kids, you know, I want to give them good time. I want to give them quality time, and until it's a problem, we have to just keep going, you know. And my husband always says, when it is a problem, we'll deal with that. He's like, and Prof will deal with it. I was like, yeah, Prof's got this, and he's playing the chess game, he's making the moves, and I just do as I'm told and keep looking after myself, and we're in it together. So we'll see. Hopefully I'll have a success story at some point in my life. You know, it'll be one of those where it's completely gone, and, you know, but at the moment we have to be positive. It's good at the moment.
Emma, I'm so unbelievably grateful for you telling your story, because I think the power of storytelling is that this will help so many other people, women, out there that are in difficult situations, not just maybe in the terms of a sickness, but really in terms of how to live with difficulty or with challenges. So I'm so grateful you spoke to me today, Emma, and I am wishing you all the best.
Thank you. I forgot to say what I think my superpower is, actually. And I think my husband would always say I know it's nothing to do with what I'm doing now, but apparently it's my ability to always make every animal that we've ever owned ridiculously needy. Apparently I have just an ability to make all animals want to be with me. So he said, you've always had it ever since I've met you. They all become absolutely useless little mummy things. So that's apparently my superpower.
Emma, you got a massive superpower and so many power tools. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.